So yesterday I put out a video of things that I like about modern NASCAR, which means that to be balanced with it all and be even on both sides, I got to put something out today of what I don't like about modern NASCAR. Now, I just want to say right now, I'm not doing this to spread negativity as much as the title and thumbnail will probably tell differently. I'm doing this to kind of point out some problems that I personally see. Now, I want to say right now, I understand that you're not going to agree with everything I say, and I don't expect people to. I just do this more to start the conversation about it and put out a bit of a constructive criticism on these things that I think could be changed in the sport. Will they? Probably not. Am I going to make a huge difference and change everyone's mind? Nah, probably not. But I still want to get this out here just to give my perspective of it. Who knows? Maybe I'll change a few people's minds. Maybe by some ass-backwards chance, I'll change the higher-up's mind. Who knows? One can only dream. Let's get to it. These are things about modern NASCAR that I don't like. Starting off, we're going to look at one that's a hot-button issue. I don't like the 550 package. Personally, I don't even like kind of the 750 package. I think that we shouldn't be neutering the engines in the Cup cars. We should let these engines go at full song and let the teams basically just fire away at whatever they want with it. Take the restrictions off. And that's my big thing here. Take the restrictions off and let the teams run wild. That's what they did in the 90s and early 2000s, and that's the racing everyone claims they want. So maybe we need to use the same methods we used back then to get back to that point. Now, part of that also means get rid of the damn splitter. I hate this thing so damn much. I hated it when it came out, and I was only, 9 years old at that time, and I still hated it. Granted, the end of the COT made it look better, and it's been hidden with the Gen 6, but it's still there. It destroys cars at any spin through the grass, whereas a valence, while it would bend in, could be at least repairable. And in my opinion, it's just ugly and bad. And I think it's a bad look overall that people are talking about removing all infield grass, talking about removing anything that could get caught whatsoever with the splitter, because it's one design flaw. That's the thing I don't like about it. We are changing a bunch of this stuff, asking the tracks to spend tons of money on a design flaw. Next up, late starts. There are two reasons that I don't like late starts. I don't like late starts to start with because really it's just not the traditional start time. I get it. That's a preference. I understand people not really caring about that end of it. Personally, I think that those West Coast fans would love to get up and immediately be able to watch NASCAR. And with an earlier start time, especially if it's a noon start, you got the rest of the day after the race to do something. I think that's a win-win for everyone. But the big reason, and I think that me being at the last two Daytona 500s has solidified this for me, is that based on average weather patterns, it rains later in the afternoon because it's the most humid time of the day. It is the hottest time of the day, and that is when the cold and warm fronts move through into each other and cause these thunderstorms. And it's happened at numerous races I've been to in the last couple of years, and it's just starting to piss me off. It happened in Chicagoland in 2019, the 2020 Daytona 500, and now the 2021 Daytona 500. If all of those races had started at noon, they would have been done or almost done by the time the rains hit. In my opinion, that should be a goal. Now, it's not going to be a perfect science. I know that there's just going to be times it rains. But I think minimizing the chance, especially with NASCAR's biggest race, needs to be imperative for both the TV networks and NASCAR as a whole. Next up is kind of a combination. So, due to what recent events have been going on in the news with NASCAR, I'm just going to say moving the numbers back. That's one I don't like. It's going to happen. I don't like it. One, I don't like it because I think it just looks ugly. It just does not look well on the side of a NASCAR sanctioned race car. I don't care how good the design looks. It just will never look good to me. But I hate this most because it is favoring corporate America over the fans. And I'm so sick of over and over and over and over again the sport changing itself to fit what corporate America wants. This is something that most fans understand, but for some reason, many up top don't seem to understand at all. Corporate America does not like what NASCAR is. Corporate America will change what NASCAR is for their liking. Fans be damned. I don't understand the long-term thought process of moving back something that a good 85% of the fans can agree on because the sponsors can get a little extra money in for a few years. It doesn't solve one major problem. Sponsors have been dropping out left and right. So what's the point of clearing up areas on the car for them to put sponsors at if they don't show up? That's the major problem, is sponsors not showing up. Putting an extra area for another sticker ain't gonna fix that. What does is engagement. Now, the next one, I will admit, I have added into at times, and I apologize for that. There are some people who I've went after harder than others with this, and it's definitely a mistake of mine I need to work on. The next thing I do not like about modern NASCAR is how nasty the fans are. Now, I will admit that at the same time, fans could have been nasty in the past, but we didn't have social media to basically shine a light on their nastiness. I fully admit that. But that doesn't change the fact that it's still bad now. Fans treat each other like absolute crap on a regular basis, and it gets tiring to look at on social media. It's gotten to the point where I use social media apps like Instagram and Twitter at this point more for just promoting what I do on here. Honestly, being on Twitter, I've noticed that it's worse than looking in a YouTube comments section. It's actually pretty tame in the comments section for the most part compared to Twitter and definitely Facebook. And that adds to another thing that I really don't like. And it's something that really pisses me off because I can tell these people do not understand where people my age, in their lower 20s, upper teens, where we're coming from. It's the angry boomers. Now, I just want to leave a disclaimer here. This is not everybody who's a boomer. There are some people who are very open to change and very open to what's moving forward. But there are some, especially on Facebook, that are god awful. And on top of that, they don't even think of anything creative. That's the funniest thing. It's the same NPC quote backs to every single thing that anyone says about modern NASCAR. And number one of these is Bubba Smollett. Oh my God, it is so funny how many people put the same thing over and over again thinking that they've actually made a point. All right, I get it. You don't like the guy. You don't have to. Come on, find a better insult. Like seriously, I mean, something better. That's all you got to do, man. Give me something creative if you're going to make fun of a driver. Now, the next thing that I'm not crazy about with modern NASCAR is something that the higher-ups like Steve Phelps have actually admitted to wanting the direction of the sport to be in, and it's entertainment over sport. It is to market yourself as an entertainment-based product. Racing is inherently entertaining. You don't need to gimmick it up. You don't need to try to make it more entertaining because racing in and of itself is entertaining. If you cannot be entertained by 40 of the best stock car drivers in the world going over 200 miles an hour right next to each other, inches apart, I don't know what to tell you. Maybe it just needs better coverage. I don't know. But making everything about entertainment, while it might not, in theory, be taking away from legitimacy of the sport, to many people watching does. Make it about the sport. That's what people want to see. There are too many leagues overall in America right now who are trying way too hard to make everything about entertainment. In stick and ball sports, the big problem right now is lack of defense. It seems like every game is just getting higher and higher and higher in score. A high score doesn't make a good game. Just like in NASCAR, a bunch of cautions at the end and crashes doesn't make a good race. NASCAR overall needs a bit of a reality check here so they can understand that you can have it where the race finishes 2 seconds apart from first to second, and it's still a really good race that had tons of side-by-side racing. Now, the next one that I'm not crazy about when it comes to modern NASCAR, and it's something that there are exceptions. But overall, The oversaturation of esports has gotten out of control in the last year. I personally think if handled well, iRacing can rival even the truck series in viewership. I really do think that long term. It's something that many people at home can look at the way that drivers did back in the day in real life cars. They can look at now with virtual cars and say, I can do that. The problem for me is that when you have iRacing on every few weeks on TV, every single night it's on somewhere, whether it's Twitch, YouTube, or it's being promoted on Twitter, when it's in your face, you grow fatigued to it. Now, there are exceptions to this. The Coca-Cola series is absolutely amazing. When you watch those guys on iRacing race, you can tell these are the best in the world right now doing this. And it's a really good product more often than not. Also, there's a lot of good fan ones. My favorite is Moonhead's League. I'm sorry, that stuff is hysterical, and that's what makes it be set apart. Now, the last two things are long-standing complaints that I've had. I know they're not going to change, but I do like to give my thoughts, at least, on these two rules when it comes to NASCAR. The first of which is stage racing. I'm going to be very short with this because I know this is a losing battle. I'm not a fan of stage racing. One, because personally, I don't like the idea of giving out points during the race. To me, I think that everything should be on where you finish, and that means putting an entire race together, not a quarter of a race. But it does at least reward those who run up front, so I'll give it that. The other thing I hate about it is the damn cautions. And this is something that even people who like stage racing for the most part have said needs to change. The caution procedures with stage racing, you can tell, have been made for TV. And again, tie into what I talked about earlier in pleasing corporate America. That should be taken away. I would love to see the strategy people would pull during a giant green flag run at the end of a second stage. Do you stay out longer, for instance, and possibly run out of fuel, but get that extra stage point or 10 stage points and an extra playoff point? That's actually legitimate drama that's made out of the competition itself. A driver could try and make this awesome, daring strategy to get that extra playoff point, but it could screw the rest of the race. That, to me, like I said, is legitimate drama that is not caused by trying to make it entertainment. It's caused by the competition itself. That fits everything that NASCAR wants and everything I've talked about today so far. And the other thing I want to talk about that I'm not crazy about, and I will die on this hill, is I am not a fan of the playoffs. Never have been, never will. I tried to be. I legitimately tried to be, especially in 2018, 2019, and a little bit in 2020, but that was for me, I just couldn't do it too much longer. Honestly, I don't know what argument to bring up that hasn't been brought up yet. I'm not crazy about a driver who runs better for 95% of the season, losing out because of like an engine issue or losing out because of a bad call on NASCAR's part of not throwing a caution when it's raining, or on the fact that the one race that they don't show up for is the one that would get them in or out. But I brought up all of these before. I'm just not a fan of the playoffs. I've never been. I tried, but I can't get with it. I follow for the racing itself though, so I still get enjoyment out of the playoff races. And there are times where the playoffs do make good finishes and good drama, and it's fun to watch. So there is that. There are positives to it. It's not all negative like so many people say. But it's just not my cup of tea. Honestly, if you were to make the playoffs a bit better, what I would do is shorten it from 16 drivers to 12 and take one of the rounds away. That way you make the playoffs shorter, you cut out the round that in the end usually doesn't mean anything, and every one of the playoff races matters, and you cut it short enough that maybe you don't have that dip in the last 4 races of the year like we've been the last couple years. Who knows? Just a thought, something I'm throwing out there. I could be wrong though, let me know. But with that, that's all I got for tonight. Again, I don't want to be too negative with this. I don't want to go and make people feel bad about liking aspects of the sport. So let me know down in the comments below. What is one thing that you would like to change about NASCAR today? It can be anything, but just List one thing, the number one thing you would change if you were in charge. While you're at it, leave a like on this video, share this video, and subscribe to my channel for more great NASCAR content. Until next time, have a good one.